Welcome to our March Hope session, Fostering Renewal Through Art and the Spiral Practice. I'm Heidi Parker. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the Community Initiatives Manager here at Arts and Healing Initiative, and I am your Zoom host today. This program is presented as part of our free Hope series, Healing Online for People Everywhere, which we created to support the resilience of our global community through social emotional arts. Each workshop offers a supportive space for connection, healing, and empowerment as we navigate the changes in our world. If you have previously attended a Hope session, welcome back. If you are new, thank you for joining today. We're grateful you are all here to create, learn, and grow together as a community. Today's program is in a meeting format, so please keep yourself muted until prompted otherwise. We are recording today's session in speaker view, and we pause the recording during any reflection to be shared on our YouTube channel. You are welcome to leave your cameras on as you feel comfortable, as we'd love for you to actively participate. Our session today is scheduled for an hour and a half, and feel free to add questions in the chat as they arise or use the raise hand function. Before we begin, we would like to start by acknowledging the Tongva Nation, on whose land the city of Los Angeles, where we are based, rests today. We hold respect and gratitude for the Tongva people who still consider themselves the caretakers of this land. By their example, we are reminded of our responsibility to our planet and to one another. So let's take a moment in our own way to honor the Indigenous communities of past and present on whose land you are joining from today. And feel free to honor the communities where you are joining from in the chat. Let's welcome today's presenter. Weaving together expertise as a teacher, facilitator, and coach into her psychotherapy and art therapy practice, Amy Lister offers a blend of care, creativity, and connection in her work with clients. As a facilitator of the Work That Reconnects, developed by root teacher Joanna Macy, she offers groups and workshops to help people practice moving through places of pain and overwhelm into active hope and deeper inspired action together. Along with her degree in outdoor and experiential education, a master's in holistic education, and postgraduate diplomas in executive coaching and art psychotherapy, her experience as a parent and caregiver of aging parents helped to balance the theory and practice of well-being in her approach to therapeutic work. Throughout her life, the expressive arts have helped to process big feelings and make meaning during times of loss, transition, and struggle. She enjoys bringing people together to share stories, wisdom, and inspiration in support of one another. And I would like to welcome Amy.
Thank you so much, Heidi. I just want to also acknowledge each of you. It's beautiful to see your faces and names pop up on my screen. In a moment when I share my screen, I won't be able to see you anymore. So I'm just taking you all in and marveling and offering gratitude for the magic of technology. There are definitely downsides to it, but right now I'm experiencing it as a great gift. So I'm imagining us all sitting in a circle in a shared space, and people are kind of meandering in, and we're collecting ourselves into a shared space across the kilometers and miles wherever you find yourself. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. And it's just such a joy to be with you. And in a moment, I will also do my own version of a welcoming in and acknowledging the land and the peoples that steward the lands where we live. And but for now, I just want to let you know I'm calling in from a place called Takaranto. The colonial name for that is Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And I'm fortunate to call home a place that is cared for by an inter-nation wampum agreement, which is called the Dish with One Spoon. And I love that image. Whenever I do work with others, I think of us all sharing a bowl. And so whatever we put into that bowl and whatever we we put into that spoon is also going to go into our bodies and go into the bodies of other living beings. And so it really reminds me to be conscious of what I bring into a space, and also how I leave space for others to bring in gifts to our shared space. So there are many nations here who have been stewarding the land for time immemorial, and I will mention them later on in the chat. But I just thank you so much for starting in that way, Heidi. It means so much as we learn how to unsettle and decolonize our ways of being, or at least for myself as a white-bodied settler here. So it's a pleasure to be together. I'm going to share my screen. I have some slides. I think they're more beautiful than looking at my face the whole time. I will take them off once in a while so that I can have the joy of seeing your faces and your names and being reminded that I too am not alone. It's such an important practice right now in the state of the world. So let me just share my screen, and it'll take a moment. And Heidi, I'm going to assume all is well, unless, oh, look, I have to go all the way back to the start. Unless you unmute yourself, I'll assume that everything is fine, technically speaking. So thank you again for helping me in that way. So we're gathered today for fostering renewal through art and spiral practice. And this is bringing my art therapy practice and principles together with the Work That Reconnects, as Heidi mentioned. I've been learning from Joanna Macy and her faculty and friends for almost 30 years. And she is one of my root teachers, and she's a really important one. And she's still teaching in her late 90s. And many of you calling in from California are neighbors to her, and you are so fortunate to live in her neighborhood. So I draw inspiration from her teachings, but also as her example as a human being, aging through time. So together we'll go through a spiral, a full spiral, which is one of the practices in the Work That Reconnects. And I'll give you a little bit of understanding about the Work That Reconnects, but today is not really meant to go into depth around that. But there are many other opportunities to learn about that, which will be included in the practice guide, as well as you can reach out to me anytime if you want me to connect you with somebody locally. I'm happy to do that. So today, this is one section of a 4-part year-long series that I offer called Creativity Collective. And we've just reformatted it so that we could do it in an hour and a half together. Normally, there would be partners and small group work. And today, we've adapted it to be mostly a private practice. And then we will have time for sharing. And of course, unfortunately, we won't have time for everyone to share. But I will welcome voices into the space as time allows. So those of you who are interested and willing, please feel free to participate in that way. And for those of you who are more happy to listen, that's also active participation in this space. So thank you in advance for that. So I'm representing Spiral Center, which is an online learning community that I co-founded with Simon Shea, who is also a Work That Reconnects facilitator here in Canada. And we developed this because we are both parents and professionals at a stage in life where it's hard for us to get out and about and travel and do a lot of in-person work. And we wanted to make this work accessible to people in all corners of the world. So we hopped on the online bandwagon and have been doing things ever since. We do a monthly spiral practice if that's something you're ever interested in. It's by donation, so you can come for free, and there'll be more information on that later. It's not a sales pitch, it's more an offering. We're trying to support each other as holders of space. Living on this planet right now, we need all the help we can get. So as part of our work, we started developing something called a Welcome Fully statement. And I'm going to read it to you here, and you will get a practice guide emailed to you later, and it is in here. So if you're someone like me who likes to reread things, you'll have a chance to do that later on. So wherever you are, take a deep breath, feel your feet on the ground or on your couch or wherever they are, your sits bones, your your spine, your body being supported by the environment that you're in, by the land holding us all. And I'd like to welcome you. I'd like to welcome those of you who are joining from a distance and those who are joining from nearby. Welcome if you are just beginning to welcome by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples in whose lands we are sitting. I'd like to acknowledge them and their ancestors, and I offer gratitude of their stewardship of this land and for showing me how to care for it and how to be cared for by it as we live with the earth and the waters and the living beings and all of life in this place. Welcome to this circle, to each of you. Welcome if this is your first experience of this kind, and welcome if you've done this kind of thing before. Welcome if you're 100% enthusiastic and glad to be here, and equally welcome if you have other things pulling you on at this moment. Let us welcome each of our respective backgrounds and ethnicities into this space. We can take a moment to reflect and ask ourselves, am I Indigenous to this land? Am I a settler? Am I a newcomer who has recently come to call this place home? What is my current connection to this land? Let the space we are creating together today welcome in the languages, the cultures, the ways of knowing we hold in our bodies. Each of us and all of our ancestral lines within us can be welcomed. Welcome to those of you who are trans, who are female, who are male, who are non-binary or gender fluid. Welcome if these gender descriptions don't work for you. And welcome to all sexual orientations and ways of loving. Everyone belongs here. Welcome to people of every age, and welcome if you have a lot of schooling in your background or if you have not done much with formal education. Everyone's wisdom belongs here. Everyone's wisdom is needed here. To those who identify as agnostic, welcome. Welcome to the atheists. Welcome to those who are spiritual and those of you who are religious. You are welcome here. We'd like to welcome all bodies and brains, all shapes, sizes, abilities, and expressions of diversity. There's a lot of uniqueness amongst us. And I'd like to welcome those parts of ourselves that might show up here in this time together. The sad parts, the cheerful parts, the angry, the despairing, the hopefulness and the hopelessness, the silliness and the solemn parts. We say, welcome. If you've experienced harm, witnessed harm, caused harm, forgiven or not forgiven harm, please know there is space for you here. We can be ourselves here, holy and perfect, precious and vital. Thank you to the earth. And thank you to each of you for being part of co-creating the circle of care and compassion here today. Our individual uniqueness and creativity woven together in our collective presence is what makes the circle powerful. Every thread, every one of us is essential. May we use this container to feel, to process, to heal, and to discover ways of being that interrupt patterns of harm and nurture goodness for ourselves and for all living beings. I want to honor that this welcome statement has been co-created with Simon and also with our teachers, Mutima Amani and also George Lakey, who has written a book called Facilitating Group Learning. Amazing, amazing work. And there's been many other voices that have added to it, and it's a living document. So we welcome feedback. If there's something that's missing or wording that needs changing or questioning, it is a lifelong learning process. And we do this as an exercise of slowing down and really creating a space for people to fully arrive, myself included, before we dive in. So welcome. If we were in physical presence with each other, these guidelines we'd take some time to discuss them, but I just wanted to share them as kind of like a role modeling. In our work, we consider each of us, each participant, as essential to the circle. And we believe there's no right or wrong emotions. So things are going to come up in our bodies. That's okay. We will listen with open and curious hearts, that we will share in our own way and at our own pace, and that we will hold a caring and confidential space for each other. And I do know that Heidi mentioned that we'll pause the recording for sharing parts. And I just want to say, in the age of the internet, please just take responsibility for your own comfort zone. If you're not comfortable sharing, whether it's being recorded or not, that's okay. And if you are choosing to share, that's okay too. And it's sharing with the awareness that it may go beyond just us unintentionally. So it's important that the spirit of holding a confidential space is there, but because we are online, we cannot guarantee a confidential space. So then we need to navigate our sharing appropriately for our own comfort zone and our own well-being. So what is the work that reconnects? So I just want to give a bow to my root teacher, just explain what I mean by the great turning, because you'll hear that referred to, and then we'll actively get into the spiral journey together. So Dr. Joanna Macy, she's an incredible person. As I mentioned, she's also a Buddhist scholar and an eco-philosopher and an activist and a thought leader. She's many things. And I thought we could start by bringing her voice into the space with us. I'm going to try and share this video. If it doesn't work, it is in the practice guide, so you won't miss out. Okay, so here we go. See if it will let me do this. Heidi, unmute if you cannot hear the sound, okay?
How do we be fully present to our world at a time when the suffering and the prospects for conscious life forms are so grim? The living systems of Earth are coming apart under the onslaught of the industrial growth society scrambling for the last dollars. There never has been guarantee for human life. All the wise ones tell us that, but it's that knife edge of uncertainty where we come alive to our truest power. This is the biggest bite out of the tree of knowledge in 5,000 years. It's a recognition that our planet is a living system and we belong to it, like cells in a living body. Can't pick up any piece of this world, a stone, a twig, without finding it hitched to everything else in creation. Now is emerging a fundamental change, like green shoots coming through the rubble of a dysfunctional civilization. The greatest, largest social movement in human history. As people acting in defense of life wake up to the grandeur of who they really are, look into the eyes of any being you can see. We're in this great mystery.
So thank you to Joanna for bringing that introduction to the great turning. I'm going to just share her words here as well before we get started. So to be able to embrace our suffering, to not pull back in denial or defense is a gift, and one that is transforming. It pushes us, stretching our hearts to be able to hold all of life's experience, not just the good or the joyful, but the difficult and the painful. And in doing so, we get to experience the great paradox of opening to the suffering, which is the opening to more life and joy and love and compassion. So she really was the root teacher for me around What do we do with despair? What do we do with all these feelings? For those of us who are really attuned to life, we feel all the good stuff and we also feel all the hard stuff. And so how do we be human? How do we stay in our bodies? How do we fully inhabit life on this planet, in this precious life of ours? And the spiral practice has been a huge supporter, and that's why I'm bringing it in to my art therapy practice and to you today. You'll hear the term great turning. Essentially, that just is a way of referring to the times we're living in, the times of change, the times of unraveling, of paradigm shifting. Yeah, it's the name that the Work That Reconnects community is given, and also some people use it in other communities too to refer to the age we're in. And if I had more time, I'd go into like the ways we could participate in the great turning, but I recommend that you attend a Work That Reconnects workshop if you have questions or you're curious about more. So let's start. The spiral practice begins always with gratitude. Why do we begin with gratitude? Because you know what? To lean into our pain takes resourcing. We can't just dive in and be with our pain. We're human. We have limits. We will burn out. We will achieve exhaustion and not be able to claw our way back up to the surface. So one of the ways that we can bolster our own personal container of our bodies, but also our collective containers, is through a practice of gratitude. And so the first turning of the spiral practice is with gratitude. So today we're going to give thanks for our capability to care in our own unique ways. And I'm going to invite you, if you don't already have some kind of paper or pen or pencil with you, take a moment to grab that now. And then we're going to take a few minutes here to do some reflecting. And once I've set things up and explained the invitation, I will put on some nature sounds as a way to hold space for us. If you find that irritating, please just mute, but make sure that you put a timer on for yourself so we don't lose you, so that you come back to us and unmute. Because it's really easy to get just seduced into that depth, that deep place, which I encourage you to go. But I also would love you to stay with us for the remainder of our time together. So one of the ways that we practice gratitude is with something called open sentences. So I'll start a sentence and then it's an invitation to complete it. And it's really just a beginning way of connecting with yourself and your own gratitude. Please don't feel attached or like beholden to these invitation sentences. They are merely a starting point. So if they don't work for you, you can completely ignore them and write whatever moves through you in a way that's meaningful to you. So for our open sentences for gratitude, I've offered you a couple possibilities. On this spring equinox, when the darkness and the light are in harmony, I am grateful for. I am grateful to the light at this point in the season, for or because. I'm grateful to the dark at this point of the season, for or because. One thing that excites me about the return of the longer days ahead is, and my heart is a sacred seed. Where will I plant it this season so that I may flourish? So thinking about our hearts as a sacred seed, where will we plant them? What ground? What is sacred ground? What is nourishing ground for us? Who is nourishing ground? Where is nourishing ground for us? So just a couple of invitations to get you started. I'm going to give us about 5 minutes. It's never enough time, so please forgive me in advance. And just know that this is just the beginning. You can always come back to this practice and in a more fulsome way. Okay, so I am going to put on some nature sounds. And it may not work. And if it doesn't work, then we'll be in silence together, and I'll leave the questions on the screen. So welcome back. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment here so we can all be together. And this is one of the points where we can bring our voices into the space a little bit together before we go for another type of adventure. So if there's anyone who is feeling called to give voice, to share part of what you're grateful for, or part of what your gratitude open sentences included, please feel free to either raise your hand electronically or physically. If your video's on, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you, and we'll have a few voices shared if there's folks that are willing. Or unmute too, but raise your hand so that we don't have folks going all at once. So any takers? Anyone feeling called? There's no pressure. Okay. I see Christy. Christy, go ahead.
So I said, in spring equinox, when darkness and light are in harmony, I'm grateful for free will, love, connection, fertility, regeneration, and wildness. And I will plant my sacred seed on wings.
Thank you. Thank you, Christy. Anyone else? There's a few in the chat that I can read. I loved the framing of gratitude with the sentence, my heart is a sacred seed. Where will I plant? Oh, I'm glad. We are sacred, There's no other seed like you or me or any of us. Yeah, the symbolism of the seed enriched me of the trust within the seed to sprout intuitively. I'm reminded of that every day when I step out of my home. There's a big oak tree that I planted when I was a child, and it's now a huge oak tree. And I think, I remember that acorn. It was an acorn, and it's now this grand oak. So just like us as seeds, we are mighty. Okay, anyone else want to bring their voice in? You can raise your hand, or yeah, I can share. You're not sick of hearing my voice yet? Let's see, I'll check the other screen. Yeah, okay. All right. So I'm feeling grateful for balance, and grateful to the dark for the opportunity to rest. Really feeling the need to rest lately, and grateful to the light for more hours in the day, for opportunity for joy. I have little people and older people in my world, and so the more waking hours we have together, especially outdoor waking hours, usually equals more joy. And then I am wanting to plant myself this coming season outdoors. I'm really feeling I'm holding so much more than my one body can handle on its own. So I'm feeling a need to be on the land, by the water, around the trees. And yeah, so that's what came up for me. So we're going to continue in this reflective space for a moment. And in your practice, God, there's a heart seed drawing page, and I'm just showing because many of you won't have it yet. But if you have a regular piece of paper, or you have a sketchbook, or you have a napkin, doesn't matter, whatever you've got, I'm going to invite us together to do a heart seed drawing. And please don't confuse this with art class. Pretty is not what we're going for here. We're going for marks on the page, that are meaningful to you. So they might be meaningful in the act of putting the mark on the page, or they might be meaningful to you in the shape or in the texture or in the color that you choose. And you're not going to be asked to show this to anyone. So please just feel free to put marks on the page in a way that's meaningful. And so my heart is a sacred seed. And you say that to yourself when you really let that land in your bones and in the sinew of your body. My heart is a sacred seed. All it holds within it is sacred too. And so for today's practice, how could you create an image that represents what your heart is holding? What is contained in your sacred seed today? So you could use words if you wanted, or you could use lines or shapes or colors. So we'll just take another 5 minutes to do that. And if you're somebody who's like, I can't do that, I all the more encourage you to try. And if you have a really strong inner critic, or maybe you're a trained artist, use your non-dominant hand or use a material that you're not used to making marks with. Try to tap into that childlike curiosity part of yourself for this. Okay. And I'll put the nature sounds back on, and hey, I'm gonna pull us all back together again. And just notice what that was like for you. There's nothing to be done. Just notice if it's complete. Notice if there's more. Notice if it was way too much time, It's all about being curious and in relationship with ourselves. So we're now going to move into our second turning of, this is sort of the main, the next two portions are sort of the meat of the sandwich, I would say, or like the portobello mushrooms of the sandwich if you're a vegetarian. So we're looking at pain as offering. Instead of pain as something to be avoided or something that is bad or a sign of brokenness, it's really the information. It's really another cue or signal of our aliveness. So I'm going to offer an invitation to do some writing, some reflective writing, if that works for you. Some open sentences and questions, and then using pencils or paper or anything that's not toxic. It's really important that it's not toxic, to create an image or poem in response to this prompt. So if you don't feel like writing, you could just hop right to that. If you're not really into imagery, you could stick with the writing. Again, these are just invitations. But I'm going to give you a chunk of time, and then I probably won't have time to talk too much about this, but if we had more time together, we would share a little bit with each other in pairs, and also imagine a spot where we would go and offer this. So I invite you at some point this week to take a walk or go somewhere in nature where you can offer this writing or this image back to the earth. So you might fold it up and bury it. You might offer it to a fire. You might place it by the edge of a river, whatever's appropriate, depending on the material you're using and depending on where you live. So this is an idea to extend this offering again, to connect, to share the pain that we hold with the earth, with the natural environment, which we are an extension of the earth, right? We're one big living interbeing, one big living body. I believe, anyway. So we'll take about 5 minutes or so for this, knowing that it's just the beginning. I know that it's not enough time, but I also don't want to take you too deep when there isn't a proper opportunity to process. So we're really just kind of dipping our toe. We're not going to the 10 out of 10. We're going to the 1 or 2, whatever we're comfortable being in communication with ourselves around today in this short amount of time. Okay. I'm going to try again to share the nature sounds. If they don't work, it's okay. I'll see you in about 5 minutes, and I will bring this back up on the screen so that you have the reflective questions. But here we go. So just bringing our mark making or reflecting to a pause. And again, remembering that this is an ongoing practice. So there's never really enough time, but there's also never really enough space. And yet there's always enough, that this is enough. So whatever made its way to your consciousness or through your body onto the page, that is a real sacred offering. And so maybe this week sometime, if you feel moved to, you could fold this up or rip it up or, cut and paste it up and take it somewhere to offer it back to the earth, offer it somewhere in nature to, for it to hold for you. Okay, so now the next part, we take our pain, we're aware of it, we're naming it, we're giving it shape. And now we get to explore the third turning of the spiral practice, which used to be called seeing with new eyes. And because I work with different bodies and brains, I'm trying to use language that is more inclusive. So I refer to it as perceiving in new and ancient ways. So however we see, whether it's with our eyes or with our bodies, on different body parts, perceiving is a whole body experience, So whether or not your eyes can see in the way that my eyes can see, we are able to access new perspectives in this part of the spiral practice. So I hope today we can access some wider and wilder points of view on our pain. So I'm going to invite you to look at your image or at your writing from a different perspective. So you can add color or symbol or words, maybe that you haven't already done, but that represent these two different perspectives, okay? So taking what you've got, the invitation is to look at it from the viewpoint of both a non-human being that's affected by your situation or by the pain that you're feeling and exploring, and a future human whose life could be affected by the choices made now on this issue or this theme or related to the pain that you're feeling. So a non-human could be, an insect, tree, animal, a rock, can be any part of any life form that is not human. And then the future human, it could be imagined, it could be a grandchild, but it also could be, a future human you know nothing about. So somebody that will be alive when you're no longer alive, when I'm no longer alive. And what perspective do they have to offer on what you wrote, what you drew, or the marks you made on your page? And then as you're looking through those different lenses, ask yourself, what do I notice? What fresh perspectives or possibilities are arising? There might be none. There might be many. Just listen with your whole body, with your whole heart. And then the last question is, what people, place, element, or living being are showing up as sacred ground or as a support to you? As you break open, root down, expand out, transform within, and grow. What message do they bring? So I'm going to leave this on the screen, but I'm going to give us another, maybe not too long for this, maybe 2-3 minutes. And then we're going to bring it all together. Okay. So again, you don't need to share this. This is a personal and private process. And I will bring us back for a little bit of sharing about process, but not what you've written or what you've drawn or anything like that. Okay. So I'll see you in about 3 minutes. Here we are again. Time just evaporates, when we give our full attention to anything really, but especially to ourselves. And especially with curiosity. So I encourage you to return to this practice, especially those perceiving in new ways practices. How could this be seen differently? And so I'm going to invite us. I'll just stop screen sharing for a second. And we have like time for one or two folks to share anything that struck you, any new perspectives, any yeah, surprises. Surprises are good. You can also put it in the chat if you feel more comfortable doing that. So I'll just share what came through for me. There was lots of surprises for me. But the one I'll share with all of you is I've recently experienced tremendous loss. So number of people close to me passing suddenly, and the message I got was, "Your tears water me," says my oak tree. So, you know, that perspective of the more than human, the non-human, in that moment was like, oh yeah, our pain is an offering. It really is an offering, you know, in different ways, at different times, especially when we honor it, especially when we welcome it as such. It's very different than wallowing in it or feeling stuck in it or feeling wrong about it or shame about it or, yeah, and then inviting other perspectives. How beyond my eyes and my body, how can this pain, how can this expression of humanness be experienced? You know, a future being came to me, said, "Thank you for caring. Thank you, thank you, thank you for caring." So again, another surprise. But yeah, it's painful to care. And so these future beings saying, yay, yay, thank you to each of us for caring the way that we do, being brave enough, being bold enough, you know, generous enough, loving enough. So I'm curious, any surprises? Anyone? I'll see there's something coming up in the chat here. I'll give voice to. Finding fresh eyes is very gratifying. Yeah, not so much comparing, but remembering that loss is also part of our humanity. Yeah, so true. I feel that myself right now. And the word surprise stood out, the ways that life can surprise us in positive ways. Yeah, when we get out of our own way, right? When we get out of that like holding tight, planning every second mode of being, there's nothing wrong with planning. There's nothing wrong with being attached either. And magic can happen when we lean back, when we step back, when we leave some spaciousness. So yeah, thank you for sharing those offerings. So to bring it all together, I'm going to share my screen again. And to bring it all together, I really love this practice of sort of combining ritual or found objects with metaphor or symbolism in a scalable way. So like a small space in your house or in your workspace. So like, for instance, I'll show you. Mine is over there. So I have a little circular table that I've turned into a care space. So each turning of the season, I do this practice to represent the shifting of the actual cycle of the year season, but also to represent the transitions of the cycle of the seasons of my own personal life. And so as our going forth practice, which is the fourth turning of the spiral practice, I'm going to invite us to create a care space. And I don't want you to rush this. So I'm going to walk you through the process, but I really hope that you'll find a few moments either today or in the near future to actually go through this. It's unbelievably helpful. I've done it with hundreds of people now, and people make their own iterations. And some people say, oh my gosh, I already do this. Awesome. It's a way of creating a holding space for ourselves, because the more space we hold, the more we need space held for us. And nature and the earth is always here holding us. And this is a way to create a care space, a reminder that we're being cared for, while we care for others. So the invitation is to think about a found object that represents spring for you, that transition from winter into spring, the transition from darkness into the return of the light, so the balance of darkness and light, the beginning of buds coming and poking through. And then the season might bring an image for you. So is there an image that you either want to draw, or do you have a photograph that you might want to put in your little space? The space could be at your bedside table, could be on a shelf, could be on, in your car. It could be in your sketchbook. So whatever space makes sense for you. But what image represents this turning of the season for you? This entering into spring, the reminder of the gifts that spring has to offer you and is offering to care for you with. And then a poem or a song. Right now, I'm going to offer you, at the end of this time together, I'm going to offer you a song. I find music is really moving me lately. It's like I'm beyond words. I don't even have words for what I'm feeling and processing. So it's nice to have other people's sounds and words to express. And poetry is beautiful that way too. So I've included a bunch of powerful poetry, and I'll share one in a moment. And then, how will I tend the holy ground and its sacred seeds this season? And if holy is not a word that resonates with you, please use whatever word works for you. So to tend the ground, to tend the sacred ground, to tend the ground I've chosen. So whatever helps you feel like you're claiming that space in a special way. Please feel free to change the words as you see fit. So how will I tend this ground and its sacred seeds during this season? So what does spring offer you? What seeds are you planting? And how will you tend to them, right? What does care look like? And then who will help protect me enough and lovingly challenge me enough so that I grow? So how do we both have enough of that comfort and that tending and that care? And also, come on, get out of your comfort space. Get out of your warm, cozy couch. Get out of your home space. Get out into the world. Connect with others. So we want to balance that. Who can help protect you enough so you feel cared and tended to, and who can also challenge you or welcome you out so that you can grow? So finding symbols or objects or images to offer into your care space, or maybe one of these is enough for you, right? You get to decide what your care space looks like. But I invite you to create a care space for yourself and keep it up for the season. Maybe you'll take this practice on, and at the turning of the solstice, you'll switch it up to represent summer. So it's a powerful practice, I find. So we're coming close to the end of our time. I want to share a song and a poem, and then I would love to close the space and then pass it back to Heidi for a couple of announcements and also a couple of extra pieces. And so we have a few more minutes together. So just take a moment. If there's thoughts that come or feelings or sensations around what your care space would include, feel free to jot those down, while you're listening to the song. And then when the song is done, if there's a word you want to put into the chat, it's kind of like weaving the closing of our circle. That would be so welcome. Some of us need more process time than others. So Okay, so this is going to go off the screen for a moment because I have to stop sharing and share in a different way so that my sound will work. But not to worry, it's in the email that's coming your way and in the practice guide as well. Okay, so. Sure. Just bear with me here while I get the song up. So I am going to share a song by another Work That Reconnects facilitator, a real veteran, incredible human, feisty, so passionate, and she's a very talented musician. And I chose this piece because of the theme and the message, but also because she hails from the California region, which is, of course, where the Hope Series home office or head office is located. So I wanted something that's rooted in a land, a space that really could be a gift to the Hope team. So this is an offering to all of you, but also a thank you to Heidi and the Hope team. So this is Let the Land Sing Through You, and it's by Lydia Violet. And also this will be in all this information is in your practice guide, so you don't need to worry if you're wondering what the song is. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can share it. Here we go.
Where are we going to? Where did I come from? What does it mean to all be bones under the same old sun? I've always been right here. What is it that we hold? Can you tell me? What is it holding my feet to the ground as it shakes? I've always been right here. So let the land sing through you, like the rolling holy. Let the land sing through you, like the rolling holy. Trees, my lungs, miss my breath. That moon is blooming in my chest. Ooh, ooh, courage, my love. Your roots go deep, down deep. Scrambled stardust and mud make up my own bones and blood. Ooh, ooh, I've always been right here. So let the land sing through you, like the rolling holy. Let the land sing through you, like the rolling holy. And then they came with their torches and their guns. So my friends gathered one by one by one by one. I asked the spider how she weaves her web, and she replied, my dear, thread by thread by thread by thread, like ancestors with songs in their packs. And they became us track by track by track by. What is the mud that made you? What is the mud that made you? What is the mud that made you? I love the mud that made you. What is the mud that made you? What is the mud that made you? What is the mud that made you? So let the land dancing through you, like the rolling holy. Let the land sing through you, like the rolling holy. Let the land sing through you, like the rolling holy. Let the land sing through you, like the rolling holy. Ooh, 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 ooh.
YouTube Premium is ad-free YouTube and
Oh,
background
1
play.
second.
So you can watch videos while reading,
need to
searching,
stop.
shopping. YouTube Premium.
There we go. Sorry about that. So Lydia is amazing and has many beautiful songs, and there's other musicians who do incredible music that I have also included in the practice guide as inspiration. So I'm going to check. I saw some words in the chat here. Thank you. Oh, good, 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 good. So there you will get an email with all of like links to the music, the artist name. So you don't have to remember, but Lydia Violet is the name that she goes by with her music. And she's also a Work That Reconnects facilitator. And I just wanted to say upon closing, I'll say a couple of logistical pieces and then I'll pass it over to Heidi. There is a Work That Reconnects network that you can find, and there's global facilitators all over the world. And there's paid and unpaid and all kinds of stuff. So if you're interested in learning more about this body of work, please check it out. Also, Lydia runs something called the School for Great Turning, and she's local in California, for those of you there, and does a lot of in-person work and is amazing. For those of you in Canada, we're doing an in-person facilitators training. Lydia and a bunch of folks, myself, Simone, are collaborating, and here in Canada, and she's leading that. And also there are 2 other folks in California, Mutima Amani, a beloved teacher of mine, and Constant Washburn, who run the Spiral Journey Facilitators program. So again, there's many opportunities. I don't gain anything by you doing any of that. It's just a passion of mine. And then if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email's included in the slides you'll be receiving. I'm happy to connect you with folks. I do a monthly practice, which again is not offered as a business. It's offered as a practice and a collective practice. So it holds me as much as it holds folks that come. So please, if you're called, feel free to add that to the list of possibilities for your future self-care and collective care, as I like to call it. So we've gone from gratitude into honoring our pain, to perceiving in new and ancient ways, right? Into going forth. And hopefully with the walk into nature and offering back to nature and or creating a care space, you have a sense of what your going forth might look like this week. Thank you for your time, for the precious gift of your presence, and the privilege to be here with you all. So I wish you well as we all go out back into the world and continue to care for and serve one another and this beautiful planet we get to call home together. So thank you, and a big shout out to Heidi and team for making this kind of offering possible. Thanks, Heidi. Thank you, everyone.
So much gratitude to you, Amy, for leading us through this renewing and healing spiral practice. And I want to thank all of you again for joining us today. And we would like to extend additional gratitude for our donors and the LA Department of Arts and Culture for their support of this series. There is a survey in the chat. If you are a Hope regular, you know the survey drill. So please complete that. It does really help us look at our future programming and make sure that we're meeting your needs. Just a few upcoming workshops and trainings. We have our Hope series for April and May are up for registration and available. And then our midweek mastery series is next week. And that is a movement-based series that will give a little support towards just some grounding, some daily movement that can help with looking at your own self and building that foundation.